Hey everyone, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and I'm going to do a completely different type of video today. I'm doing an interview with my nephew Alex, who's graduating from college this May. He's buying his first house, and I talked to him about why he's buying, about college, about what he's learned, all kinds of different things. I want to talk about to show young people kind of the value of buying a house and what you may or may not be learning in college. So I know most of my videos are about, the 26 flips we did last year, the 26 before that, or my rental properties. I also own a brokerage, and I'm a real estate agent. Being a real estate agent was one way I became successful, and I'm a huge proponent of buying a house, not just because I'm an agent, but because I think it really helps people financially. So I want to do this series, this interview, to help people realize how real estate can be so beneficial to someone coming out of college and someone who isn't, completely knowledgeable about real estate either. Alex is incredibly smart. The School of Mines where he's graduating from is one of the best in the nation. He's graduating in 3 years with an economics degree, so it's awesome. And so it's really cool to hear his points of view on buying houses, on schooling, on being an entrepreneur, all kinds of different things we talk about. Now we're going to do a series of this, so we'll have many more videos, interviews as this process moves along. And please let us know if you have questions, comments, things you want us to talk about. I'll try and pick some of the best ones and put those into new interviews. If you like them, give us a thumbs up, of course. And any questions or comments, leave them too, and I'll try and respond. And of course, check out investformore.com. More articles on being an agent, buying houses, flips, rentals, all that good stuff. All right, so here's the interview. It's completely raw, has some not very good audio, which I'll try and work on later. Nothing is scripted, so hope you just enjoy our conversation. I am with Alex, who is my nephew. He's buying a house. We're going to try and buy his first house. He's graduating from the School of Mines after 3 years, so congratulations on doing that. That's an accomplishment, a huge accomplishment. And I just want to talk to Alex about why he wants to buy a house, the process, some roadblocks he's run into, and try and give people some insight onto what it's like buying your first house. So Alex, thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Doing good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Alex has never done anything like this before, so don't give him such too hard of a time. No. So first thing, great job on school, all of that. What made you want to buy a house?
I think it was a lot of things, but I think really the biggest part was that I thought about all this stuff, and I don't really plan on moving too far away from here anytime soon. So I wasn't worried about, having somewhere I could quickly leave and go somewhere else. Also, I think it just seems like a better investment, kind of something where if I'm renting, I'm just paying rent every month. But if I'm owning a house, I'm building equity. Cool. So there's some of the main points. No,
that sounds good. Before you made your decision on buying a house, did you do a lot of research or did you look into it? I mean, I'm just curious kind of how much you really thought about it and looked at the process.
On the buying versus renting decision?
Yeah.
I definitely looked around Greeley a little bit. Obviously, my mom does all the property management, so she knew the rents pretty well. So did some searching around what rent looked like. But prior to that, I mean, just at my time at Mines and my time in high school, I kind of made the decision that I was looking to be just stay in Greeley for a long time. Wasn't looking to be too mobile.
Cool. No, that makes sense. And then how long do you think it's been since you've first decided, okay, I'm buying a house, it's time to really get serious and start looking at properties?
I think I kind of made the decision for sure that I was going to buy closer to January, February, but I didn't actually start looking at anything until early March. So month now. Okay, cool. And I'd ask, has anything really surprised you or been different than you thought it would be so far? Yeah, I mean, I thought I knew a lot coming in. I mean, I guess I knew picking a house. I knew a lot of that, but some of the behind the things like getting a loan, there's a whole lot there that I didn't know. It was a lot more complicated than I imagined. Right. And, we've talked about that too, where you had some issues. And do you want to talk about that? What your biggest problem was with, first trying to get that loan? Yeah, it was weird. Something I didn't expect. So I started building credit probably in December, so only a few months ago. So I knew I was kind of late on that ball, but I didn't think it'd be a huge issue. And it turned out that since I started in December, I had one credit score established at the three, whatever the scoring agency is, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. But then I didn't have it at the other two. And apparently in like the big loan lending offices and stuff, they need to have either all three to automatically make a loan, they said, or I have to have zero and then they can manually underwrite it and it doesn't necessarily matter. So it was a weird situation where because of my timeline and building credit, I had one credit score but not all three. And so some big places couldn't go forward because of that.
Right. And yeah, we talked about that. And then, but that wasn't, a lot of people I think would be like, oh, I can't get a house. I've got to wait. But it looks like you've kind of worked through that. And how did you go about getting around that credit score issue?
So we haven't officially got through it. I mean, I think we're making progress. A lot of it just is talking to these smaller banks that are more flexible with their loans and then showing that like, look, I'm co-signing with my mom. She has really good credit history. I have the down payment. I have really good assets to back up some of this stuff, and then I'll have a solid career and salary too. So it's just showing that I have everything else in order, even though I don't have established credit history.
Right. And that's something I talk a lot about, on my blog and different stuff as me as an investor, banks won't loan to me either. So even though I've got, 20 some properties, and that actually makes it worse trying to get a loan. And I say, go to small banks, talk to local banks. They're so much easier to work with. And while they don't always have the lowest rates or the greatest programs as the big banks, it's still a lot better to be able to buy something than to rent forever and wait. So, no, great to hear that. And one thing I wanted to ask you too was you looked at the rent versus, purchasing a property. Did like getting a really good deal, buying below market, was that part of your decision as well?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely feel like that was something too where I mean, if yeah, like I said, part of the reason I'm buying is for investment, not just for my own self. And so I felt like I could get a good deal. I could probably find something. And just renting, honestly, the options didn't look that appealing, especially in Greeley, compared to like a bigger city like Denver.
Right. No, and for people who might be watching this, Alex and I did not rehearse any of this, by the way. So a lot of this we haven't even talked about yet. So trying to give you raw video on exactly what he's going through and what he's looking at. And then something else that I thought was interesting going through this process is just how your mom's been helping you and helping you make decisions. She's been in real estate her whole life. How much do you think that affected you and helped you out with the decision?
I think it definitely helped a lot. I mean, one of the reasons where I'm fairly certain to buy is because she can offer me such a good deal on one of her own properties. So that was a huge bonus when she could offer that and say, look, and I knew the property really well too. But just in general, she's really helpful, would help talk with these banks, helping me, make sure I have everything in line. She's the one who helped start building my credit earlier on too. Like without her, I wouldn't have any credit built yet. So that was a big part of it for sure.
Right. And was that, I'm wondering too, because you're in college, which a lot of people are right now who listen to the blog. Did they teach you anything about building credit or buying a house or any like real life financial information?
Not until this semester when I started doing all this. I have one class as my personal finance. It's in my economics department that I took this semester because honestly just had the space open and it fit my schedule and it turned out to be really useful. And yeah, we've talked a lot about credit. So I learned a ton about credit this semester, but kind of wish I knew that, 2 semesters ago, 2 years ago when I could have started building sooner. We talked a little bit about the home buying process, but it was more kind of like rent versus buy, like what would you rather have, not so much the nitty gritty, like getting a loan or actually talking to realtors and how to go about that process. Is just like, is it more affordable to buy or more affordable to rent? So I've had a decent amount, more than I expected, but not until recently.
Okay, cool. No, that's good to know because that's something too a lot of people don't realize is not having a car payment, not having credit cards, seems like on the surface is like a good financial decision, but it makes it almost impossible to get a loan or buy a house.
Yeah. And
So
you have to get a loan to buy some things, I've learned.
right. Yep. Exactly. Now, what is kind of like your long-term plan? Are you thinking you're going to live in this house for 10 years, 20 years, or are you thinking you might want to live in it for a short time and then move out and keep it? What do you think you want to do with this property?
It definitely depends, but I think regardless, shortest I'll live there is 10 years. So definitely long term, I think it'll be something where once I get closer to 10 years, I'll reevaluate if I want to move somewhere else and then just use it as a rental property, something like that, or if I want to stay in there. I think a lot of that just depends on where I am with my career and where I am with life, and if I want to move into a bigger house, if I need more space, something like that. But
Okay.
definitely long term.
Cool. No, good to hear. And that's something I'm gonna talk to you about more too. My philosophies on real estate, but no, that. And then what about your philosophies on buying rental properties or eventually investing in? Is that something you're interested in now, or is that just totally off the radar at the moment?
It's definitely something I'm interested in now. Obviously, it's hard without a bunch of capital and stuff. That's why I want to start doing it. It definitely, from what I've seen with the work you do, and then from all the rentals my mom has, it's definitely a pretty good long-term investment.
Cool. And then I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you are going to work for me for a little bit, at least, right?
Yeah.
Cool. No, Alex is going to help with the business starting. He's starting right now, and then hopefully we can find some good stuff for him to do. But you're a math and economics major, right?
Just economics.
Okay. All right.
Our full title is like economics and business, I think.
Okay. No, good to know. But math is definitely one of your strong points, as I've
Yes,
seen.
a lot of math there. I mean, it's every major of mine has a lot of math in it, but then economics, we have the most math compared to an actual full math major.
Okay, cool. Did they teach you anything about investing in your degree, as far as like, should you invest in stocks or real estate, or what the best route was?
We've talked a little bit about that. A lot in the same class that I've done the credit and like the housing, that personal finance class. We're just getting into stocks, and it's more not so much what's best, but more just how each different thing works, like how investing in stocks works, or like what do bonds look like, those kinds of things. And so we've
Okay.
definitely had different like mathematical techniques and stuff to evaluate investments, like comparing risk versus the return and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. No, did they touch on real estate at all?
Hardly. It just
Okay.
all we've ever seen on actual real estate was that it's typically one of the maybe more risky but higher return investments.
Okay. I'm curious because I really don't know,
Hmm.
what they're teaching now. I knew what they taught me when I was at CU, and it was
Sure.
basically nothing
Hmm.
on real estate unless you were in a specific real estate class.
Yeah.
And so I know I was a finance major, and they pushed investing in stocks and, the kind of the typical, you know, invest as much as you
Sure.
can and hopefully retire at some point. But
Hmm.
yeah, so they also, oh, I have a question too. Do they teach you kind of any entrepreneurial um,
Yeah, I know
thoughts or processes?
we have like a series of 3 entrepreneurial courses that are supposed to be really good. One of the professors or the professor for them is one of like the favorite in our department, but I just unfortunately with my scheduling issues never was able to get into one of those. So they're definitely very interesting, and I've heard they're very good, but I can't speak from experience what it was about.
Okay, cool. With careers and stuff, do they talk about that at all? Like if it's better to be an entrepreneur and do your own thing, or if you should work for someone else? Is that like is that ever discussed at all?
Not necessarily that specific question. It seems like a lot of this is just like the whole school, the whole curriculum is kind of designed to set you up for an industry career. So going to work for a big industry company in this specific sector. And so for economics, it's a bit different because we're so flexible in our degree and we have kind of less support because we're a smaller degree anyways. It's more kind of like a open field, like our faculty does a good job suggesting cool jobs that they see, but they're typically just like work for this company and not so much push to, freelance or do entrepreneurial work. But I
Okay.
do know a couple graduating majors who are going to do freelancing work because it kind of what fits their degree and what they want to do.
Okay, cool. No, it's really good to hear. And like I said, this is helping me out, kind of learn,
Mhm.
the college atmosphere as well, because I hear that a lot from people, but it's nice to hear exactly what's going on. I know, like, I'm big on Instagram and Facebook, and I know you're kind of low key, but do you or your friends ever talk about like the social influencers out there, Grant Cardone or, like Ty Lopez, those guys who are pushing entrepreneurial stuff? Is that ever discussed, or is that just kind of something that's not in your circle?
I had one friend who followed Ty Lopez. That was the extent of it. I guess one of my other friends is really into not specifically those big influencers, but he's a lot of the smaller ones, like the is it the Millionaire Next Door or whatever that book
Uh,
is? That guy,
yeah.
he follows that guy a bunch. So a
Okay.
little bit of it, but not much.
Okay, cool. I just wondering because I know they're big on some of the Instagram stuff I do, but that's where they're at. So it's
Sure.
hard to know how
Yep.
how widely reaching they are.
Hmm.
Um, cool. So I know it's kind of went off a little different tangent than I was thinking about with houses, but it's good to hear from your school perspective as well. As far as your friends and different people who you're going to school with, what about them? Are they thinking about buying a house? Have you talked to them at all about their thought process?
Yeah, I've definitely talked to a lot of them, and I can't think of anyone right now that's planning on buying first. I think they all want to rent. I think a lot of them, they're not sure where they're going to be working in, say, 5 years. They're trying to get their first job and they think they might move afterwards or they might switch careers. Then others I know kind of maybe want to, but they feel like they have so much student debt that they can't quite afford a house. Where some cases, specifically like in Denver, like the really expensive areas, it seems like you can find really cheap rental deals, even though it's not maybe like the best place, but you can rent for a lot cheaper than you can buy in certain areas, which matters to them.
Yeah, no, and I think that makes sense too, because if you're moving to San Francisco or even Denver,
Hmm.
it's really expensive to buy. Like
Sure.
you probably could not buy. Someone
Yeah.
coming out of college cannot buy, and it might make sense to rent. But if you're going to somewhere that's more affordable,
Hmm.
it might make sense to buy instead. So I think that definitely plays a part in people's decisions. Now, something I want to go into a little bit too is my philosophies on real estate and
Sure.
investing, and see what you think. You don't have to like make decisions or anything,
Mhm.
but I was going to say, now you are fortunate that you have a down payment that you can use
Yes.
because you graduated early. So awesome job. And I don't, if you don't want me saying this, we can cut it out. But your mom's giving you some of your college fund you didn't use to buy a
Yep.
house, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it worked out where since it wasn't just because I graduated early, but I essentially didn't pay tuition all 3 of these years because I had scholarships for all that too. So really, obviously it was wonderful. They saved so much money for me, but it was only used to spend from like my room and board. So there's made a deal where I get a certain amount for my down payment, but then there's still a lot left over that's going to be saved for my sister and my brother for when they get to college in like 15 years.
Right. So no. So I think that's a great lesson too. That even though you're getting helped out and you were set up well
Hmm.
by pushing and getting those scholarships and being smart, it helped you out so much more, and
Yeah.
you're able to use that money instead of paying for college. Do you know how much it would have cost you in tuition to go there? I'm curious.
To mines?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that for my 3 years of just room and board, it's been close to like, well, there's tuition like the first few semesters, a small amount. We added up the other day and it's been like 89,000 so far. But then without those scholarships, it'd be closer to like 130 for these three
Okay.
years. So, I mean, that's a lot of money. It's a huge number, obviously, but the bills from like Stanford would have been like 70 to 75,000 a semester. And
That's
so it's insane. Yeah, that was the deal where they're like, if I get in, it's great, but like if I was going past 3 years at any of those schools, it's going to be really tight, and I'd have to do a lot of work to get my rest of the money for those few years there.
right. Nope. That's crazy. And you're in state at mines too,
Hmm.
which
Yeah,
saves money, correct?
so it's a lot too. Yeah, I don't know the exact number on that, but it's a big difference too.
Right. Nope. And then your mom actually works at mines too. I don't know if that helps anymore, does it? Or
It we've gotten like $500 of benefit from it. There is definitely one of the, at least in the Colorado universities, that give the least aid for dependent students.
okay. No, interesting. Yeah, no,
Like,
my sister Wendy is has a doctorate in physics and teaches there and does some different stuff. So she got all the smart genes from our family. No, very cool. So what I was gonna say is, you have a big chunk of money that you can
mhm,
use for down payment, and that's awesome. That's great. You're in a great situation there. And looking back on kind of when I grew up and bought my first house, I had a decent down payment, and I bought a personal house,
mhm,
lived there for 6, 7 years, and I was smart enough to buy it right before the housing crash or housing increase and sell it right after the housing crash.
mhm.
So I lost $10,000 over 6 years, but still, I still liked buying it. It was a great situation. So I know that might be something we talk about too, is your concern if housing prices could go
Sure.
down. But something I always wished I would have done was use my owner occupant status to get really low down payment loans. So like, with FHA, you can get a
Mhm.
3.5% loan. Conventional, you can get 5% down. And I wish I would have done that, bought a house I could rent, lived there a year, moved out, rented the house, bought another house with low down payment, and just kind of like stacked properties
Mhm.
when I was in my 20s. And I didn't really buy my first rental until I was 30,
Sure.
and that was one regret I have. My things worked out great, but I was just curious: have you thought about that strategy at all, or what are you thinking as far as the investing side?
I haven't thought too much about that. I definitely know that'd be a long talk with my parents to see if I could even do that because this money I get stipulation is specifically for a house down payment. And like I can't use it for anything else and only use like if I don't use it all, then the rest goes to the savings for the other two, my sister and brother.
Okay,
So it would be a hard talk and to figure out. I mean, maybe I could work it out, but that'd definitely be difficult to get all the money to do that kind of plan.
okay, no, and that's something like I said, just throwing
Mhm.
ideas out there,
But I
and
haven't
there are
thought too much
ways.
about it.
I can make your sister mad at me, and maybe we can work around that too by, you can always do a big down payment now and refinance or get a line of credit later. But we'll just pretend I didn't say that if she's watching. No. And then what about, have you ever thought about buying now? And are you familiar with like the tax forgiveness rule on real estate?
Talking about like depreciation and like the whatever transfers they are.
Well, if you live in a property as an owner occupant for 2 years, your profit is tax free, pretty much.
Oh, okay. That I did not know about.
Okay, so like if you live in a house for 2 out of 5 years, 2 minimum, you buy it for $100,000, you end up selling it for $200,000, and you make $100,000. That's tax free if you sell it. You don't have to do a 1031 exchange. You don't have to. It's just pure tax free. And so I didn't know if you thought about trying to get a really good deal, almost like a live and flip, where you buy it, live there, sell it, and do it again.
That's another thing to think about. I'm a little adverse to moving a bunch, but maybe.
Okay. No, but I totally understand that. I was the same way. Looking back on it, it's always easy to say, "Oh, I wish I would have done that," but then actually doing it, it's a whole other story. So, okay. Cool. Well, those are a couple of things I wanted to throw at you and just see if you thought about those yet. Like I said, people can tell now we really haven't talked too much about the process yet. Cool. Well, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this first one, just kind of introduction of what you're doing and kind of the process you're going through. But yeah, you're kind of looking at buying one of your mom's rentals she's had for a while now, and then she's giving you a decent deal, no real estate agent commissions, which is nice.
Yep.
So I'm just, is that the route you really want to take? Or are you still kind of thinking maybe if I get a really good deal, I'd look at something else?
It'd have to be a really good deal, but I'm not like set on that specific house. I'll say that. I think the main reason I'm choosing it is because how good of a deal it is and how good I think it'll work as like if I want to rent out the basement in a future rental property. Okay, cool. And yeah, that has a walkout basement. So it could be, set up as a rental, which is nice. But you have to be careful with I think you know this, but you could only have one or two unrelated people. I think it's 2 unrelated people along with me.
Right. So you couldn't have, like a lot of people talk about renting out each bedroom to 5 different people.
Yeah, no, that's not possible.
That would be illegal. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have to rent out the basement to one family, essentially.
Yep. So, okay. Very cool. Well, that's about all I wanted to go over now. You're kind of summarize. You've been looking at some properties. You've talked to some lenders. You're still trying to work that out. And then basically when you graduate in May-ish, you're looking to buy in this summer sometime, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, cool. Do you have any questions for me or anything you want to talk about on your end?
Not right now. I mean, happy to talk more in the future, but I think for now, I don't have much else. Okay,
cool. All right. Well, I think that's good for me. Like I said, we'll try and do some follow-ups, follow your story, see how it works out. And maybe talk a lot about your loans and the property you buy and how it works. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for doing this.
No, thank you.
All right, so that was the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, I had no questions written down. Just wanted to talk and see where it went. And I think we got a lot of really good information out of it. So there's a lot more we can talk about in future interviews. So again, leave us comments, questions you think we should be talking about. If you have any ideas for Alex or want to say anything to him, he pays attention to my YouTube channel too. He actually helped do a little bit of editing a year or 2 ago on the channel, so he's up on that. And then, if you have any ideas for what he can do for our business too, that'd be great to help. He has an economics major, so very smart at math, so he's going to help dig into the numbers, review some of our expenses, reports, things like that to start with. But I think it'd be really valuable to have someone like that on my team and helping with the business, so that'll be really exciting as well. And we'll talk about that too as this process progresses, what he's doing with the business, how he's helping out, and how his career is evolving too. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, leave us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos, please subscribe. And we hope you enjoyed it. All right, talk soon.